Hello, and welcome, fine people of YouTube, to HITC Sevens. It is that time of year again. Now that the dust has settled on the European Championships and the Copa America, we can once again turn our attention to all the usual delights of the off-season. Transfer speculation, pre-season games, and the new releases in terms of home and away kits. Now, this year, the kit game has been raised up a notch, primarily by the finest football team in all the land. That's right, my very own Hull City have knocked it out the park with their away kit this season, which is a sexy blacked out design that I personally think looks fantastic. Elsewhere, Atletico Mineiro also released a pretty stunning special edition shirt designed by their own supporters, though I'm not quite sure whether they plan on wearing it in actual competitive fixtures. I'm sure one of you in the comments can put me right on that. Anyhow, some of you may recall that last year, ahead of the 2020-21 season, I made a video taking a look at a unique new shirt design for each of the 20 Premier League teams in collaboration with aspiring and amateur shirt designer Alfie Powell. Well, I thought his shirt designs were pretty interesting, and a lot of you seem to agree. So when Alfie got back in touch with me this week, suggesting a follow-up with an away shirt for each team, I thought that sounded like a pretty good idea. Just to clarify, since some of you thought the idea of another Alfie last time around might just have been my alter ego or some kind of schizophrenia, I can assure you that isn't the case. Alfie designs shirts for all kinds of teams, from Barrow to the Brazilian national team, over on his website, alfiepowelldesign.com. Though, he reminds me that the best way to keep up with his work is to check out his Instagram via the username at Alfie_Powell_designs. Dutiful endorsement done and dusted, and a big thanks to Alfie, no, not me, the other one. We shall get underway. Here are some stunning concept designs for every Premier League team's away shirts. Arsenal. Getting us started, since I'm going to be going in alphabetical order, I should point out that as with last time, if you watched that video, Alfie has sent me his own descriptions with regards to each design and what his thinking was behind them. So, for the most part, you're going to be hearing his views rather than mine, which will no doubt provide a welcome break from my usual inane rambling nonsense. No doubt you'll love some of them, hate some of them, and be indifferent about others. That's sort of the way of the world, isn't it? And it's certainly the way with football shirts. Alfie's Arsenal away shirt is designed to evoke memories of the club's away shirt in the 1993-94 season, which you can see on screen now. Alfie's design is a modernised version of that shirt with a brighter blue and horizontal brushstroke sashes, rather than the vertical ones found on the 93-94 shirt. The simplified Arsenal logo is a nod to the hexagonal framing of Arsenal's old badge from the 1930s, which was proudly displayed above the main entrance at Highbury. Aston Villa. Another away shirt that Alfie says was inspired by an Aston Villa shirt of the same era as the Arsenal away shirt we just looked at. Aston Villa wore this bad boy away from Villa Park from 1993 to 1995. And for absolutely no reason at all other than the fact that it came up on Getty Images when I was searching for a photo of that kit, here's a photograph of Gareth Southgate in a photo shoot after receiving his first call-up to play for England in 1995, shortly after he had signed for Villa. Oh, and here's another, again for no good reason other than that it also came up on Getty, of then BBC Radio West Midlands presenter Julie Mayer being held aloft by Villa midfielder Mark Draper, who is now the kit man at Notts County. They were different times. Right, I just had to re-record this bit because I included that as a fun little stupid sort of random anecdote, but whilst I was putting the video together, I thought I'd just Google Julie Mayer, just see what the funny woman posing in the Villa shirt from 1995 is up to these days. And, well, it turns out that Julie and her husband Tony Wandsworth were both jailed in 2017 for historic child sex abuse, which is a direction that I really didn't expect this video about Premier League concept away shirt designs to go in. My apologies to Alfie and to all of you. I promise I will stick strictly to the shirts from now on, through fear of, accidentally mentioning any other convicted sex offenders. Alfie mentioned in his comments about this Villa shirt that it is unfortunate that the more aesthetic Muller logo isn't still the sponsors of Villa's shirt as it was in the early 90s, and he said he didn't know who Kazoo were or what they did. Well, I won't tell you all that because this video isn't sponsored by Kazoo, but I will tell you that they're the only company to be the shirt sponsor of 2 Premier League teams. Brentford. Rarely has a club seemed to be more deserving of promotion to the Premier League than Brentford, who did it the right way, if you wish to moralise these kind of things, and had come so close in recent years before finally winning last season's playoff final. Ahead of their first season in the Premier League, and their first season back in the top flight of English football since the 1946-47 campaign, Alfie said he felt Brentford needed a shirt that would catch people's attention. Having already looked ahead, I can assure you that this isn't the case for every single shirt in this video, but Alfie's design for his Brentford away shirt also draws inspiration from a Brentford away shirt from the early 1990s, and that is this one that the Bees wore from 1992 to 1994. Alfie also drew parallels with the new Iceland shirt and, perhaps most aptly of all, the seats on public buses. It's a bit confusing all this Alfie did this, Alfie did that, isn't it? Well, with me being called Alfie and all, but as a rule, you can assume I mean Alfie who designed the shirt, since I very rarely refer to myself in the third person. Brighton and Hove Albion. A sort of blackout shirt that isn't black, if that makes sense. Those are my words, not Alfie's. This Brighton away shirt features a black crest, a black sponsor, and black collar, and also black cuffs. As Alfie pointed out in his message to me, Brighton have tended to have yellow away kits in recent years, but they did have a green and black one as recently as 2012-13, so hopefully you can forgive him for that. Though subtle, the shirt does feature seagulls, waves, and kelp, and it doesn't get much more Brighton than that. Burnley. From a shirt in which all the features were blacked out, whilst the kit itself was not, Alfie's design for a Burnley away shirt is a slightly more traditional blackout shirt, of the kind that have become increasingly common within the last few years. No, that doesn't make the whole City away kit any less sexy, just not necessarily all that inventive. Alfie freely admits that he tends to find Burnley kits favour function over flair or style, so he wanted to come up with something a bit more striking. Not entirely blacked out, the shirt features subtle dark blues bleeding into a claret colour towards the bottom, along with the stone cuffs just to break things up. Chelsea. Chelsea don't tend to stick with a colour for long when it comes to their away shirts, having rotated frequently between black, grey, yellow, light blue and even light green over the last couple of decades. Alfie's Chelsea design is inspired primarily by this form of loose kit, which incorporated both grey and orange tones. It is not quite 50 shades of grey, but there are at least 4 in there, which isn't bad going. Alfie said that once he'd finished the design, he felt it looked quite like a German national team kit, which seemed appropriate for a team with a German manager and a squad containing the likes of Antonio Rudiger, Kai Havertz, and Timo Werner. Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace may be synonymous with red and blue strips these days, but the club originally played in claret and blue, followed by a period of time in which their home shirt was primarily white. Alfie's Palace away concept is designed in recognition of that fact, along with incorporating that trademark sash, a design that Palace have adopted more times than just about any other club I can think of within the English game. The shirt itself is actually an off-white, I am reliably informed, and I needed informing since my eyes aren't the best. Meanwhile, the sash is checkered with 2 tones of purple. Off-whites and purples are 2 colours rarely found on shirts within English football. But if only clubs would give him the chance, Alfie could change all that. Everton. Right, now, this was the only shirt that Alfie said he didn't really have anything to say about, so I guess it's up to me this time to do the heavy lifting. To me, it looks like the love child of a zebra and a lemon meringue pie, though I don't suppose the two could actually mate. You can see why I rely on Alfie for the other inclusions. Moving swiftly on. Leeds United. Another club whose current colours have not always historically been their club colours, Leeds United spent more than 40 years following their inception in 1919, playing in black and white, then blue and white, then blue and yellow, and then just blue, before going all white in an attempt to emulate European Cup winners Real Madrid in 1960. Alfie's Leeds United away shirt borrows two of Leeds' most favoured colours that aren't white, combining them in an unconventional pattern that Alfie hopes Leeds fans will consider to be quite good looking, and something that they'd like to see their team don. I should point out, for the benefit of those of you who haven't seen last year's video, that all the sponsors are the official club shirt sponsors, except for those who are sponsored by gambling companies, in which case Alfie has replaced their sponsorship with a charity. 8 Premier League shirts are currently sponsored by betting firms, which is slightly fewer than last time out, but is still very high. I suspect most Leeds fans would agree, whatever they think of Alfie's shirt design, that their shirts would look better with most charities' branding on the front of them, rather than some obscure bookies licensed in the Philippines. Leicester City. Alfie described his Leicester City away shirt design as being his most reserved, though, and perhaps this just means that I'm a deeply unimaginative and boring person, I must admit that I quite like it. I often like a collared football shirt, so long as they're well made, and this one's no exception. Smart and stylish, Alfie said he wanted to design a shirt that was more fashionable and would be worn by fans on an everyday basis, whilst still being relevant to the football club, which he has managed with these subtle foxes dotted evenly around the shirt. Liverpool. Alfie provided me with a bit more of a personal backstory with this one, as this was the shirt which inspired him to start this series and to get in touch with me, because he initially designed it to try and impress a girl he's seeing who supports Liverpool. From what I know about women, which admittedly is not a lot, I can say with some confidence that if she isn't impressed by you designing her a new concept Liverpool away shirt inspired by the club's classic 1995-96 away kit, then the relationship is probably doomed, and it's best that you found out early on. Now that I've brought it up in this video will serve either as a funny anecdote later in life, should you stay together, or as a painful reminder of that time when your heart was shattered into a million tiny pieces, should she choose to leave you. I reckon I speak for everyone when I wish you both all the best. Back to the shirt, and a bit like the Arsenal shirt we started with, this is a nod to a classic 90s kit with a modern twist, and more coloured cuffs. Alfie says it's one of his favourites, so let us know if you agree in the comments, particularly if you're a Liverpool fan, and doubly so if you're the girl Alfie is seeing at the moment. I suppose your view is the one that really matters the most, given that it could be make or break for the relationship. Manchester City. A shirt designed with no lifelong love on the line, Alfie was more worried about hate than love when he came up with this one, putting Manchester City in red no less. There is precedent, of course, since the Citizens have had many red, or at least red-ish away kits over the years. I think this one falls into that category of red-ish shirts with multiple shades of red on offer in a design which boasts plenty of angles and sharp lines, harking back a little to the away kit Manchester City wore between 1990 and 1992. Alfie was worried it looked a little bit too much like a training top, but let us know what you think in the comments, any Manchester City fans who are watching. Manchester United. Manchester United fans might have to wait until after the Glazers are gone for the club to evoke the yellows and greens of their past, given its connection with protest movements these days, as Alfie readily admits in his messages with me. Nonetheless, in a perfect world, there is no reason why the Red Devils couldn't reintroduce those iconic colours. Alfie hoped this one would be popular with Manchester United fans, given not just the colours, but also the striking design, oversized collar, and enlarged black shield containing the club's crest. Newcastle United. Alfie has been a big fan of Newcastle's shirt designs in recent years, but feels they have all been ruined by some dreadful sponsors. And on that front, it is hard to disagree. Of course, Alfie isn't contractually obliged to stick a whopping great, pig ugly, fun 88 logo on the front of his designs, which he described as being like cheating, since any design automatically looks 100 times better than the real thing. Newcastle's alternative sponsor is a particularly apt one in the northeast. Meanwhile, the primary panels on the shirt are red, or burgundy, with a houndstooth pattern broken up by giant dark blue hoops with black and white pinstripes between them. Norwich City. Alfie is a big fan of Norwich's less typical home and away colours of yellow and green, along with their new sponsors, Lotus Cars, who share those colours and are a pretty cool sponsor by modern day footballing standards. Alfie's own design features an enormous canary which occupies virtually the entire shirt, which reminded me a bit of a team in the Americas who have at times employed a similar design with their animal. Is it Pumas I'm thinking of? I know one of you, with a better memory and far greater knowledge of football shirts, will tell me in the comments. Alongside the primary design features, Alfie's Norwich concept shirt also has a faint feather-like silhouette across it, which is only visible in certain lights. The badge has been deliberately simplified in order to fit in with the rest of the shirt. Southampton. This season represents Southampton's 10th successive season competing in the top flight of English football ever since they won promotion under Nigel Adkins in the 2011-12 campaign, and Alfie has gone pretty bold for the occasion. Alfie told me he took inspiration from both Southampton's 1987 to 1989 and 1991 to 1993 away shirts, whilst turning up the dial to 11. He wasn't sure whether this one fell into the looks a bit like a bus seat category as well, though it reminded me a bit of one of these types of road signs. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Tottenham Hotspur. In the interest of full disclosure, Alfie wants to admit that he is an Arsenal fan, but his uber professional attitude means that he did try to design a decent Spurs away shirt rather than just sabotaging it out of spite. Tottenham have had primarily white home shirts continuously since the 1898-99 season, though their original home shirts were actually a shade of aircraft blue. In those early years, the club's away kits were, how shall we say, unpredictable, bouncing around from white to orange and brown to black and white, blue and white, red and blue, red, yellow and blue, just blue, and basically everything in between over a fairly short period of time. From the 1950s onwards, with a few exceptions, Spurs have tended to have yellow or blue away kits, with the odd black shirt thrown in every now and then, and an even rarer show of purple or brown. Alfie says he always thinks Spurs' away kits should be blue, not yellow, though he partly admits that's because Arsenal's away shirts tend to be yellow. Consequently, his design for his North London rivals is a pretty jazzy one, which Alfie says he begrudgingly quite liked once it was finished. There is just a touch of aeroplane rather than bus seats about this one, we think. Watford. When he was doing his shirt designs, Alfie looked extensively at every Premier League team's home and away kit history, and he tells me that his biggest takeaway of all was that Watford have an unparalleled record when it comes to bad kits. His words, not mine, don't kill me in the comments, though I would be interested to hear whether Watford fans agree with that assessment. In an attempt to bring some flair and imagination to Watford's supposedly drab kit archives, Alfie didn't want to go down the block red or block black designs that the Hornets typically go with on their away shirts. Instead, he went floral, with a fresh colour scheme altogether. Alfie tells me his inspiration for the shirt was twofold. One, he wanted to make a shirt that he thought looked cool, and two, he wanted to make a shirt that he thought Troy Deeney would look funny in. West Ham United. Alfie tells me he had to fight hard against the temptation to come up with yet another remake of the blue West Ham away shirt with just two claret hoops, if you know the one I mean. I'll put one on screen, which has been remade more times than The Great Gatsby. Not wanting to be that predictable, Alfie instead drew inspiration from the Hammers 2002-03 away shirt, which was a white shirt with claret pinstripes. That was his starting point, admittedly, but it would be fair to say he ended up taking it in a direction all of its own. The pinstripes became chunky zigzags, and if you squint hard enough, you should be able to spot a subtle paisley pattern in there as well. Wolverhampton Wanderers. The fundamental basis of this Wolves away strip was Alfie's discovery, whilst playing around with his design, that the iconic wolf in the Wolves logo is able to be utilised in such a way that it can create a continuous tile pattern. As far as Alfie could tell, Wolves' 1996-97 away shirt is the only time the club has ever taken advantage of that fact, which he personally finds surprising. I am reliably also informed that that particular shirt remains popular among Wolves fans, and is often reproduced due to the demand, so hopefully this concept will prove to be just as big of a hit. The two-tone Wolves create a sort of zigzagged hoop effect, with some old gold piping on the collar and cuffs acting as a nod to the club's primary colours. So that is it for today's video, but thank you all as ever for watching, and a big thank you to Alfie for sending me his shirt designs and letting us make this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Hit the like button if that was the case, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and make sure that you are subscribed and have notifications turned on by just hitting the little bell icon for HITC Sevens. You can also find me on Twitter or Instagram via the username @HITC Sevens on both, should you wish to do so.